Hey guys, doing a video here on a tank upgrade. So you've seen my 45-gallon tank several times. That's the tank I've been videoing this whole time. I purchased a 110-gallon tank off of Facebook, cleaned it up and resealed it, and decided to, instead of running a whole new tank, I would transfer my 45-gallon tank into it. So that's what this video is going to be focused on. I'm going to take this entire 45-gallon tank and disassemble it and reassemble it into a 110-gallon tank and move everything over and get a bigger reef going. And then that's the tank I will be spotlighting along with my nanos going forward. All right, so here's just kind of some of the basic details around what I did. So I took my 45-gallon tank and it's going to a 110-gallon tank. The 110-gallon tank is a 110-gallon tall tank, so it's 48 inches wide, 18 inches deep, and 30 inches tall. It's got a homemade stand and canopy. So here's what it looks like. It doesn't look that huge in these pictures here, but once it's all set up and standing back and look at it, it's a big tank. So I have here this here it is set up, but we're going to go through how I got to this point where it's all set up, and there's my homemade canopy. So first step is, of course, put everything where I need it to be and then empty the 45-gallon tank. So everything came out of the 45-gallon tank and had to go into temporary storage. Of course, in order to keep everything alive, that temporary storage needed a heater and it needed some air. So I put a Powerhead in there to keep water moving. And then I used my skimmer pump and ran that in there as well to keep the water aerated. You can kind of see the water aerating there. So it had flow in the temporary storage, it had temperature control in the temporary storage, and it had air in the temporary storage. The only thing it didn't have was light. And that is just a plastic bin that I got from Walmart. Has a lot of the water there from the 45-gallon, and then just all the coral that was taken out of the tank and placed in there. Of course, the cleanup crew was placed in there and all the fish was placed in there. So anything alive went into that temporary storage. So I took my Rockscape, and I had my Rockscape from my 45 plus a 5-gallon bucket of extra rock that I was putting into the 110. I glued it all together with super glue. I know epoxy, I know silicone, but the rock was wet. So silicone and epoxy doesn't do very well with wet rock because I was transferring out of my 45. I wanted to keep that rock alive, so obviously I didn't want to dry it out. So the best way to seal wet rock together is with super glue. So that's what I used. This is the Rockscape I chose to create. Couple arches. I got a flat piece in the middle to put stuff on, but a lot of arches, and I did give a lot of sand room to put stuff down there. As you can see, it's back away from the glass, so I can blow flow directly behind it and keep flow moving all around that rock so we don't have any dead spots. Lots of holes off the back glass, lots of flow around it. I also added 80 pounds of new sand. The Carib Alive black sand, as you've seen in my other tanks, I just personally like the black sand. So that's what I added, the Carib Sea Hawaiian black sand. For flow, I'm going to have my canister filter. You know, I always run canister filter. It's my preference. And then I have 3 800-gallon per hour Powerheads. For lighting that came with this guy was the Vipar Spectra. So I have 2 Vipar Spectras on here. And you can see kind of in the back there, I just moved my skimmer over from the 45. Yes, that's very under sized, but we'll worry about that later. Right now, we're just going to run with the undersized skimmer. And so here's kind of everything in the tank after I got it filled up and put everything in the places that I wanted it put. As you can see, stuff's still closed. It was just recently put in, as well as it just looks very small underneath, or in that tank compared to the other. And again, that's just kind of the Powerhead showing that it's blowing air, blowing flow behind the back. So here it is, blue under the Vipar Spectra. And again, everything's still closed up. This is my flow. So I have a Powerhead at the top, blowing at the top water, and then bouncing towards the front glass. On the other side, that is my return from my canister filter, blowing up to the top surface and then bouncing off the front glass. So that's happening on both sides, and then they collide in the middle. In the middle of the water column, I have this guy here. It blows towards the front glass, and not directly, but at an angle, and then bounces to the rest of the tank. And then the one that I've showed several times, I have this guy just blowing straight across the back to make sure I don't have any dead spots in the back of the tank. So I have that everything kind of colliding in the middle, so it collides and kind of bounces back and creates that random disturbance flow. So what did the transfer piece look like? So the transfer piece here, obviously I just kind of took everything out of that temporary storage. There's my Serpent star, one of my favorite stars, even though you don't see them all the time. So he went into the tank. Obviously I glued all the coral into place and put all the fish back in. So just basically transferred everything from storage into the tank. As I mentioned, it's got two Vipar Spectras. I'll go through my settings in a different video. So here they are. It's plenty of coverage. I was debating 3, but I think 2 does plenty enough coverage for this tank. I was a little bit concerned with how tall this tank is, because it is a 110 tall. So it's a 75 footprint, but tall to get all the extra gallons. And I needed to get par all the way down to the bottom of the tank, which is why I didn't transfer over my AI primes. They'll be used in a different setup because I love those lights and I won't get rid of them. But for this tank, I needed something that I could crank up a little bit higher than the what I could crank my AI primes up in order to achieve light all the way down to the sand bed on this really tall tank. So just kind of showing you a little bit here of how I set it up and kind of what the setup looks like. Again, everything's mad, everything's closed. This is, an hour or 2 after putting everything in the tank and whatnot. So filtration in it, I bought a Cascade 1000 canister filter, the other miscellaneous stuff. So 300 watt heater, ATO system, skimmer, battery pack, power strip, and then new bacteria to jump start it. All that stuff, except for the bacteria, came from my other tank. Just transferred it on over. Issued encountered. My own stupid fault. When I put everything in, I forgot to plug in the heater. And it went overnight without heater in the 110. So the fish and everything had to stay in that temporary enclosure for 3 days. As a result of everything sitting in that temporary closure for 3 days, I lost 2 of those little guys there, and then my self-in tang. So 2 chromis and a self-in tang was my loss due to my own mistake. So right after adding fish and coral, this is kind of what it looked like. Everything put together and set to go on my new tank. Hope you like this video. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, check out some more of my content, and we'll see more of this tank coming up soon. Thanks, guys.